Hello and welcome to Wildlife Behavior 2021 by Bryan. So, let's discuss invasive species. Invasive species are species which disperse to areas outside of their native range. When determining if a species is invasive, we should consider the following questions. Can the organism physically make it to their new area? What are the physical boundaries or restraints that they have? Can the organism survive in the new location? What is the environment like? Is it really hot or really cold? Too hot or too cold for the organism? Is it too wet or too dry? So these are the environmental factors for the environment which they are moving to. Can the organism survive with the other organisms already there? What adaptations does it have, if any, that will allow for the organism to not become easy prey? So this is how can it combat the predators in the area. So humans have allowed various species to bypass physical features of their natural habitats via human travel. So in this picture here, we can see buses, trains, cars, planes, and ships are the big ones. And you have so many invasive species that are just able to take a ride to a new location from human travel. So what is a native species? Native species are species which are normally and naturally found in a location. These species evolved with the environment they are found in, and they have natural predators in their location. What is a non-native species? A non-native species do not naturally reside or occur in the area. They also do not have to hinder or harm other species. However, they can hinder or harm other species. It's not a requirement in order to be a non-native species. Non-native invasive species do harm one or all of the following: environment, ecosystem, humans, animals, and or plant health. So invasive non-native species have the potential to harm just one or multiple or all of those factors. So some common characteristics of non-native invasive species are few or zero natural predators, competitors, parasites or diseases, high reproduction rates, tolerant of different environments, generalists, and pioneer species. So a pioneer species is a species that helps other organisms survive, and non-native invasive species often do this for themselves. So they are pioneer species for themselves. The non-native invasive species that I would like to discuss today is the northern snakehead, Chana argus. The native predators of the northern snakehead include humans, birds, predatory fish, and caimans. So on the left-hand side of your screen here, you can see a juvenile snakehead. They're really small as fry, but this one is still fairly young, and it is only about the size of a quarter or other coin. And on your right-hand side of the upper corner or upper screen is a fully grown northern snakehead that someone caught. And they can get quite large. So as they grow older, they become much more prominent predators in their ecosystems, and many less things will eat them as they grow larger. The northern snakehead is native to China, Russia, and Korea, and it is most prominently found in the lower Amur River Basin, which is here in China. It's your bottom map. And then the northern snakehead has invaded the U.S., Europe, and Japan, along with other countries around the world. And that's shown on the upper map here. It was purposefully introduced into Japan by humans. It was not purposely introduced other places. So this is a map of the northern snakehead invasion within the United States. So on this map, the dark red areas around here and here on the pointer have very prominent and now typically well-established populations of northern snakeheads. But all the states that have recorded at least sightings of snakeheads are Arkansas, California, Delaware, DC, Florida, Georgia, Illinois, Maryland, Massachusetts, Mississippi, Missouri, New Jersey, New York, North Carolina, and Virginia. The population is currently contained to the lower 48, and the northern snakehead has currently had the largest impacts and the most prominent and well-established populations within the Chesapeake Bay region and Florida. So, what kind of adaptations does the northern snakehead have? So the adaptations that the northern snakehead have that allow it to thrive as a non-native invasive species in so many regions around the world are that it is adapted for cold and warm water temperatures. It's able to survive in moving and stagnant water. So in the winter, in the summer, it stays much more shallow. And in this picture here on your right-hand side, you can see it builds its nests in shallower water, and then it actually will protect the young in the net or of the nest. And then in the winter, it's able to move to those deeper waters, combating freezing temperatures and things like that. It's a very aggressive predator. They do breed very quickly. A female can breed as many as 5 or sometimes more times a year. Then when they do breed, they produce thousands of young. They actually have this thing called a primitive lung. It's an air chamber, and this allows a snakehead to live out of the water for prolonged periods of time, much longer than many other fish species, and which allows them to bypass physical barriers to move to other bodies of water, which would otherwise restrict their movement. And the adult diet consists nearly exclusively of other fish. The USGS has predicted it is over 97% other fish species of the diet of the adult northern snakehead. So what have been the impacts of the introduction of the northern snakehead into these non-native regions? Within the U.S., we have seen some fairly significant impacts of the northern snakehead. It was actually originally predicted when they were found in the Chesapeake Bay that they would have such a detrimental impact that it would be unrecoverable if we didn't take immediate action. Now, this has not necessarily been proven to come true so far. They have definitely recorded some decreased populations of native fish species in the area, but with the diet of the northern snakehead being predominantly other fish, they have had more impact on other fish species than other kinds of species in the area that they've been introduced into. And they do actually bring a potential food source to the U.S. However, even though they're a largely exploited food source within China and Korea and areas such as that, they have yet to become a largely exploited food source within the United States. People have been somewhat hesitant to eat them. They haven't been used to them yet. But hopefully in coming years we can start to combat that and hopefully have more people, instead of do catch and release, practice harvesting them. Eradication attempts of the northern snakehead have proven to be fairly expensive so far. And there have been quite a few eradication attempts, however, it does bring some anglers to the Chesapeake Bay area searching for northern snakeheads because they are a very, very well fighting fish that many anglers would love to catch. And then I've included a video here that I think would be very interesting, and I found it very interesting, and it would be very beneficial in helping understand the impacts and just understand the general biology and ecology of the northern snakehead. So let's move on to testosterone and cortisol levels in chimpanzee urine during different activities. So testosterone and cortisol level in these chimpanzees during boundary patrols, their testosterone levels were significantly elevated before and after, likely higher because it would increase aggression. They had higher elevation was observed after patrols than was before, but still elevated for both. and their cortisol levels increased before patrol, but increased even more significantly after patrols. So, what about hunting? So, before the hunt, we see no relationship with testosterone. However, after a hunt, there is a reduction in testosterone. So, this potentially means that after the hunt, they are less aggressive, maybe more satisfied, something of that sort. Their cortisol levels, before the hunt, they were increased. This could mean that they're going to be satisfied and they're excited to hunt. So, during meat sharing, we actually saw a decrease during meat sharing in testosterone levels, and this is likely due to decreased aggression. They're not trying to be dominant over one another, as well as unsuccessful hunts revealed no significant relationship with testosterone, but meat sharing from successful hunts lowered levels of testosterone. And it lowered levels of testosterone in both the individual who is sharing meat and who is receiving the meat. All right, so now let's discuss the brood parasites. The brood parasite that I decided to choose for this is the bronzed cowbird. Before this, I had never heard of the bronzed cowbird. Its scientific name is Molothrus aeneas, and it is a brood parasite as well. And so on the bottom left here, we have the picture of a male. On the bottom right, we have a picture of a female. And in the middle here, in the top right, we have a picture of a juvenile. So the bronzed cowbird is primarily a ground forager with a diet consisting mainly of seeds and insects. They prefer to live in open areas with fewer trees or in completely open habitats. They are mainly found in Mexico and Central America, but can also inhabit some of the southern areas of the U.S., and those are shown in the map here. It's typically their breeding ranges in the southern areas of the U.S. The bronzed cowbird has been known to use at least 101 species of songbirds as hosts, and they've been known to very often parasitize orioles. This is a hooded oriole here on the bottom right of your screen, or bottom left, sorry. So the conservation of the bronzed cowbird itself is considered of low concern, and there are no major conservation concerns for the bronzed cowbird based on its hosts. However, on the contrary, it has been decreasing populations of host species due to its brood parasitism for a while now. And one specific instance would be in Texas. Population declines of Altamira oriole and Audubon's orioles, and I put those down here in the bottom corners of the screen, have been linked to increased brood parasitism of bronzed cowbirds on both of these species, as well as other species. And according to Rasmussen et al., bronzed cowbirds may be more present around and even check in on nests, which they believe are more likely to eject parasitic eggs. And Rasmussen et al. Also found that the clay-colored thrush is more likely to eject parasitic eggs from the nest in areas where bronzed cowbird presence is higher. So what are typically some unique adaptations for brood parasites? The young actually will push host eggs and nestlings out of the nest once they hatch, so that the parent or the host parent has to spend more time on them and less time on the host species. The parents or the parasitic adults will mimic the eggs of the hosts or mimic more generalist eggs. So they'll try and mimic as many hosts' eggs as they can. Some are more specialized than others. It just depends on the species. And some species of brood parasites, the female bird may pierce eggs of host species before she lays her egg in the nest. And for the bronzed cowbird specifically, it typically lays about one egg per nest in multiple nests to hopefully increase survival rate. And I've included an awesome video that I found interesting in this slide here, and I should be able to put that on YouTube. All right, so next we have temperature-dependent sex determination. Temperature-dependent sex determination occurs through differences in incubation temperatures of eggs, which can affect what sex the embryo will hatch as. So when an egg is incubated at various temperatures, that could be cold extremes or hot extremes. One possibility is that hot and cold extremes produce one sex, while in between those extremes, which would be something of a median temperature, those could cause females or the opposite sex. Another scenario would be that cold extremes produce one sex, while hot extremes produce another sex, and there is no median which produces that one sex. So who does this occur in, or what species? Temperature-dependent sex determination occurs in all species of turtles, crocodiles, and tuataras. So here on the bottom left, we have a turtle. In the middle, we have a crocodile. And on the top right, we have the lesser-known tuatara. It also occurs in most species of snakes and lizards. So let's take a look at temperature-dependent sex determination in painted turtles. So when the eggs are incubated at a very high temperature in painted turtles, they become female. Raising temperatures could cause painted turtles to become predominantly female as an entire species. This could be a big issue because it would lower reproduction rates. And then they could potentially have a lot of sustainability issues. Colder breeding seasons could help mitigate global climate change effects on these turtles. The seasons that are colder, we could see more males being hatched those seasons. What can we do as humans to combat these changes? So one option would be aggressive action to combat carbon dioxide emissions, and global warming could possibly help prevent extinction. And this was suggested by Venezuela et al. So next, let's discuss male assistance in their reproduction. The species that I would like to discuss today is the largemouth bass, Micropterus salmoides. So in the breeding of the largemouth bass, the male is the one who makes the nest, which we call beds. So in this picture here, the light spots within this dark habitat is actually a bed that a male largemouth bass has come along and cleaned out. And they do this so that the female will come and lay her eggs, but we will explain that next. After the males create the nest, which is called the bed, and then they try to entice females to lay her eggs on the bed. Once a female has laid her eggs and the male has fertilized them, the male takes the role of caring for and protecting the eggs. The male continues this behavior after the eggs hatch into fry, and male largemouth bass have also been known to fan the eggs on their bed with their pectoral fins to keep silt from settling on top of the eggs and possibly to keep them oxygenated. Thank you for joining me here today. These are the sources that I use for this presentation, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your summer.